Trump's SNAP sabotage, defying courts to starve 42 million in shutdown cruelty. Oh, let's not sugarcoat this festering wound on the body politic. Because if there's a more vivid snapshot of Donald Trump's rotten soul than watching him choke off food from the mouths of the desperate just to spite a Congress that won't kiss his ring, I haven't seen it in 3 decades of chasing down the grime of American power plays. Here we are, smack in the heart of November 2025, with the federal government shuttered for over a month, thanks to a cabal of House Republicans, egged on by Trump's border wall obsessions and tax breaks for his Mar-a-Lago cronies, and the man who swore to drain the swamp is now drowning the poorest among us in a deliberate deluge of deprivation. Trump, that fast food-fueled fabulist with a spray tan that screams insecure, took to Truth Social last Friday night, mere hours after 2 federal judges dropped the hammer on his USDA's Scrooge routine, and declared with all the faux piety of a televangelist fleecing the flock. We'll release the funds once we get appropriate legal direction. Unfortunately, November SNAP will be delayed. Tried dangled like bait on a hook, a sadistic tease for the 42 million souls. Kids gnawing on empty stomachs in underfunded schools, seniors rationing pills to stretch a Social Security check, veterans scarred by Baghdad sandstorms now scavenging dumpsters, and disabled folks whose daily grind makes hunger strike a cruel joke. This isn't policy, it's punishment, a blatant thumb on the scale of cruelty because his approval ratings are nosediving faster than a lead balloon. Gallup's latest pegs him at a dismal 39%, a 5-point skid since October amid the shutdown's self-inflicted wounds. And so he lashes out, starving the nation to salvage his bruised ego. Illegal as hell, immoral to the core, and absolutely, unforgivably cruel. That's the trifecta of Trump's latest outrage, and if the Democrats, finally off the mat after those midterm thumpings, don't swing the 25th Amendment like a sledgehammer at him and his whole clown car cabinet, we're complicit in this banquet of barbarism, where he chows down on Big Macs for the cameras while the rest of us fight over crumbs. Let's rewind the reel on this farce, because the devil's in the timeline and burying it under MAGA fog of fake news, bravado only lets the rot spread. It all ignites October 1, when the fiscal year flips and Speaker Mike Johnson, that mealy-mouthed Louisiana theocrat with a Bible in one hand and Trump's leash in the other, can't corral his Freedom Caucus kamikazes into a clean, continuing resolution. Why? Because Trump, from his gilded perch, demands riders for $14 billion in wall funding, a deportation dragnet that'd make Stalin blush, and spending caps that gut everything from environmental regs to arts endowments, all while shielding his donor class from IRS audits. Congress blinks, the lights go out. National parks turn into ghost towns, IRS refunds freeze mid-mail, air traffic control limps on fumes, and, crunch time, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, helmed by Brooke Rowlands, that Heritage Foundation hatchet woman with a Rolodex of cock cash and a heart of flint, slams the brakes on SNAP's November cycle. On October 10, USDA memos hit the states. Halt all new issuances, no recertifications because no appropriated funds exist in this shutdown purgatory. SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program to the wonks, food stamps to the rest of us, isn't some optional perk. It's the crown jewel of America's anti-hunger arsenal, inked into law by LBJ in 1964 amid the War on Poverty's first salvos, expanded under Nixon's Family Assistance Plan, and battle-tested through every recession since. At $120 billion annually, it props up 42 million enrollees with an average $180 monthly per household. Peanuts in the grand scheme, but a godsend when inflation's gnawed grocery bills to the bone. 2/3 of those cards swipe for families with children. 8 million for elders on fixed incomes scraping by in subsidized seniors' towers. Over 1 million for vets, whose PTSD meds don't cover ramen. and the rest for disabled Americans whose bootstrap dreams died with their last flare-up. For the first time in 6 decades, USDA's freeze creates a November cliff. EBT cards go dark starting the 1st. Food banks from Brooklyn to Bakersfield brace for Armageddon. And states like Massachusetts and Colorado start dipping into rainy day slush to backstop the bleed. Rhode Island ponied up $20 million from its general fund, but that's a drop in the Atlantic compared to the $9.2 billion monthly federal tab. Enter the black robes, because amid the chaos, the judiciary, that last bastion of sanity in this funhouse mirror of a republic, steps up with rulings that should have trumped sweating perjury oaths instead of tea times. It starts October 31 in Providence, where U.S. District Judge John McConnell, a Obama appointee with a no-nonsense docket, hears a blockbuster suit from a 24-state coalition led by Rhode Island AG Peter Naranjo and backed by heavyweights like Democracy Forward and the ACLU. McConnell doesn't equivocate. The shutdown does not suspend statutory mandates, he writes, slapping down USDA's freeze as arbitrary and capricious under the Administrative Procedure Act. SNAP's enabling statute, Section 18 of the Food and Nutrition Act, explicitly carves out a $5 billion contingency reserve for unforeseen circumstances, including lapsed appropriations, and McConnell orders its immediate tap. Full benefits by November 3, or at minimum partials by the 5th, with a stern nudge to raid another $4 billion from tariff windfalls and child nutrition pots if needed. Echoes boom from Boston the same day. Judge Indira Talwani, in a parallel class action from Massachusetts AG Andrea Campbell, calls the suspension unlawful outright, affirming the reserve's use and giving USDA till Monday to report back on full versus reduced payouts. These aren't rogue activists. They're jurists dissecting plain text, Congress-intended continuity, not congressional poker games as veto power over the vulnerable. Talwani's order drips with urgency. The court will allow defendants to consider whether they will authorize at least reduced SNAP benefits for November and report back no later than Monday, November 3, 2025. By noon that day, the administration's scrambling, filing a half-assed compliance memo. $4. $65 billion from the kitty to cover 50% prorated allotments. Think $90 instead of $180 for a family of 4. But no new applicants, no disaster top-ups, and several weeks' delay for execution, per Rowland's sworn affidavit. Why the half measure? Because they claim full funding would endanger school lunches and WIC. A laughable dodge when they've already shuffled $750 million in tariff scraps to prop up prenatal nutrition for low-income moms and babies. Trump, he doubles down on the defiance. His Friday post a masterclass in mendacity. Benefits delayed pending. Legal direction, as if Article Roman 3 is his Google search bar. By Monday, the partial pledge lands like a wet firecracker. States get guidance on prorating, but recipients. Radio silence, with food pantries in Denver and Philly reporting 30% spikes in lines overnight. This isn't incompetence. It's calculation, a venomous calculus where human suffering is the chip in Trump's high-stakes bluff against a hill he can't bully. Peel back the bluster and the motive glares. Polls. Trump's numbers are in freefall. 39% approval per Gallup's November tracker, down from 44% pre-shutdown, with independents fleeing at 28%, and even white working-class support cracking under the weight of furloughed feds and empty shelves. A Monmouth deep dive last week pegs his economic trust at a nattier 35%, hammered by tariff whiplash that's jacked washer prices 12% and sparked retaliatory hits on Iowa soy. Shutdown fatigue. It's biblical voters blame Republicans 52-38 over Dems, per Quinnipiac, and Trump's personal strong leader. Halos dimmed to a flicker. So what does a cornered autocrat do? He pivots to pain, starving Snap to force Democratic hands in the Senate where Chuck Schumer's caucus, buoyed by those midterm pickups, holds the line on clean CRs without the poison pills. It's classic Trump, punish the enemy within. As he ranted at a Bedminster rally October 25, lumping Pelosi holdouts with radical left phantoms while his base cheers the optics of toughness. But optics shatter on reality. Snap's 70% rural uptake means red state heartlands hurt worst, from Alabama's Black Belt to Appalachia's Hollows, where food insecurity's already at 15%. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities warns of a catastrophic ripple. Partials mean 20 million households short $50 100 weekly, spiking child hunger 25% per USDA's own models, with ER visits for malnutrition up 18% in past shutdowns. Food banks. Overwhelmed, Feeding America's hotline lit up 40% last weekend, with volunteers in Nashville sorting tomatoes till midnight, only to watch pallets dwindle. And the vets. 1 million strong, many in states like Texas and Florida, where GOP governors feign fiscal piety while their constituents queue at Calvary Episcopal in Philly, tears streaming as disabled Marine Brock Brooks chokes out. "I fought for this country. Now it's fighting me for a meal." Illegal. McConnell and Talwani etched it in stone. USDA's freeze violates the Impoundment Control Act, that post-Nixon safeguard against executive budget games, and flouts Snap's plain mandate for uninterrupted aid. The contingency fund's no slush. It's statutory armor, invoked seamlessly in 2013 and 2018 shutdowns under Obama and even Trump's first tango, when then-Sec Sonny Perdue tapped it without a whimper. Rowland's reversal. Ideological arson rooted in heritage reform. Blueprint to slash Snap by $230 billion over a decade, imposing work requirements that boot 3 million off rolls and demonizing recipients as moochers. Trump's history screams it. His 2018 Farm Bill veto threat over loopholes. For able-bodied adults, his Cavadira executive orders gutting waivers for 700,000, his endless yapping about ending food stamps as Democratic handouts. This shutdown's his wet dream, a lab for austerity theater, where hunger's the prop in his America First passion play. But courts aren't buying. Contempt looms if partials drag past the Fifth, with Naranjo vowing appeals to the First Circuit if needed, and Schumer floating a discharge petition to ram a CR through. Dems, ascendant post-November 5 midterms with House flips in Pennsylvania and Arizona. Smell blood. Hakeem Jeffries' war room's scripting floor speeches tying every empty fridge to Trump's tantrums, while AOC squad mobilizes TikTok town halls with Snap moms sharing horror stories. Immoral. That's the gut punch that keeps me up, a secular sin against the social contract where government's meant to lift, not lash. Snap works. USDA data shows every $1 invested yields $1. 50 in economic activity, lifting 1 million kids from poverty yearly, slashing food insecurity 30% in recipient households. It's bipartisan bedrock. Reagan expanded it, Bush the Elder indexed for inflation, even Newt Gingrich's 96 welfare reform preserved its core. Trump's twist. Racialized resentment, coded in inner-city dog whistles that paint brown and black families as frauds, ignoring that whites comprise 36% of enrollees, rural zip codes 25%. This cruelty cascades. Kids in Chelsea, Massachusetts, sorting pantry tomatoes October 29, faces gaunt from skipped breakfasts. Elders in Flatbush, Brooklyn, eyeing EBT signs October 30 with despair. Vets in Northwest Missouri assembling meal kits October 31. Haunted by the irony of serving abroad only to beg at home. Food's not leverage, it's human dignity, and Trump's show-off eating. Shtick, wolfing Whoppers at rallies while millions ration rice, isn't just disgusting, it's despotic, a Marie Antoinette moment for the MAGA age where caviar dreams collide with ramen realities. We need this garbage out. Now, with Dems on the offensive, wielding every tool from injunctions to impeachment whispers under Section 4 of the 25th. That dormant dagger for unfitness, when a president's unhinged vendettas veer into endangerment. Hit Rollins with ethics probes for her heritage ties, Miller for scripting the suffering, the whole sycophant swarm from Johnson to the Mar-a-Lago minions. Invoke the amendment if polls crater further, cabinet secretaries, cornered by constituent fury, could flip the switch. But don't wait for saviors. Call your reps, flood switchboards with hash feed the 42, donate to philabundance or Park Hill pantries, vote blue in every local scrap. Trump's not invincible. He's isolated, his base fracturing as shutdown pain bites red strongholds. This ends when we demand it, starve the beast of indifference, not the people it pretends to serve. Cruelty's currency devalues us all. Redemption starts with rage, righteous and unrelenting. Out with the obscenity, in with the ordinary decency we've earned. The banquet's over. Done. Time to choke on your own bile. I love you all and thank you for listening to this. Love always, Santiago, D.C. Maria.